Putin is taking Russia back to the past. They do not see their future. Dictatorships, they usually disappear very quickly. His regime is getting weaker. Putin is losing a lot of his friends, literally and metaphorically. Many of them die of natural reasons because, because that is the generation that is quite old. And this is something that Putin does not want to accept. And he keeps talking with Xi Jinping about ways to continue lives. And this shows his vulnerability, his inability to, again, accept the reality and act correspondingly to it. And also, there are people from his circle who know a lot and who can be dangerous when his regime will begin shaking. So perhaps some of these deaths are not that obvious, the reasons. And I also think that we do not talk enough about different top managers of various companies like Aeroflot, like Gazprom, like Lukoil. During these years of the full-scale invasion, there were dozens that died under very unusual circumstances. A lot of them committed suicide. A lot of them were found dead or killed in some accidents that look very suspicious. And again, it may be they are speaking the truth, they want to save their businesses, they see how the world they built is being destroyed by Putin's obsession with Ukraine, which is very irrational if you think about it. Even if you forget about morale, law, it's simply irrational. It does destroy the Russian Federation. And they might have tried to do something, become a change, and he tries to clean them. Plus, we need to remember that he comes from FSB background and he still has a lot of his old FSB friends who are prepared to work. Because right now there are rumors about the confrontation between the administration of president and the FSB. The administration wants to be more realistic, is against internet shutdowns because this destroys Putin's popularity. And FSB is prepared to do what Putin wants. Because again, when Putin decided to practice these internet shutdowns, it's because of his old school this approach. He doesn't use internet. He doesn't know what that is. And he thought it will be something minor for the population. They will accept it just like, closing one newspaper in Soviet times. It's different. It's a tool of work. It's a tool of fun. It's everywhere. But he cannot understand this. And it shows this very big problem that Putin is taking Russia back to the past. They do not see their future. They don't build their future. They are trying to recreate their past, but they cannot. And that's why I'm sure these following months may bring us a lot of unusual turns. Again, just with the mutiny of Prigozhin. Was it expected? No. Did anyone see it coming? No. It happened very quickly. So some more successful coups can actually happen very quickly too, and quite unexpectedly. We observe some important changes inside the Kremlin, and those, it's difficult to name them elites, but still Putin's former friends, oligarchs who helped him come to power, because again, he was not chosen. He was assigned by Yeltsin back in the 90s. He was not popular, he was not known, and this move helped him become the prime minister and then the president. And now they sense his weakness, and I sometimes dive into this toxic world of Russian YouTubers because you need to know your enemy. And what I see now, they actually collect the puzzle showing how his regime is getting weaker. Because for many, the collapse of Putin's regime may be a surprise, but if you watch history, you love history, you know that dictatorships, they usually disappear very quickly, contrary to other changes in democratic countries. It all seems very strong, and then on the next morning, a coup and a totally different dictator. It's not a healthy process, but that's what modern Russia is. And they existed in that country on the basis of agreement between Putin and the Russian population that I avoid naming society. They don't act like one, unfortunately. And they gave up their freedoms, their democracies, for the sake of what they describe as stability. so that they can live ordinary lives without any serious troubles, and that's it. And for 20 years or something, he was able to provide them this kind of life. And during these years that his special military operation supported by them failed, this agreement was actually destroyed. And the same agreement was metaphorically signed with oligarchs, that they keep earning their money, and Putin allows them to become richer, stronger, and at the same time, they do not interfere into his political and military choices. But right now, they are relocating their funds out of Russia. And that's what a lot of Russian observers talk about. During this half a year, 2026, they relocated a lot of their funds. It's super difficult because thank you so much, our European friends, for sanctions that prevent them from using your banking system for their bloody money. But they are using different other routes via Armenia, Azerbaijan, to Saudi Arabia, to some African countries. Why? Because they fear for their funds in Russia. It is not the first time that the Kremlin speaks about the need to use some of their money. They started gathering these oligarchs for conversations, pushing them to donate something on the war in Ukraine. And there are already some arrested among Putin's closest friends or his criminal supporters who were totally safe during 26 years of his rule until now. Why? Because he tries to confiscate their resources, and others see that. So this is perhaps one of the greatest triggers. And then I see more and more people in those videos they record after Ukrainian drones now visiting more and more of the Russian regions. They keep saying, like, we were promised that the special military operation will take place somewhere outside Russia. And they were totally okay. They did not care about war crimes committed, Ukrainian hospitals destroyed. It was somewhere very far away. But the only reason that Putin kept repeating, addressing his population, was to make Russia safer, to protect Russia from any potential strikes, attacks. You know, all of these invasion was described as preemptive. And now they say, wow, the result is just the country. More fires, more explosions, gasoline crisis, huge federal budget deficit, internet shutdowns. This doesn't seem like a better Russia. Compare the state of the Federation in 2022 with 2026, and it becomes obvious. So more and more people now sense Putin's weakness, his inability to rationally analyze the situation, because he actually had a lot of very good chances to end this war and to sell it as a victory to his people. He did not choose this way. And I think this mixture of war now on the Russian territory, serious economic problems, fear of the general conscription that may follow after the so-called elections in September, these oligarchs who understand that they cannot longer trust him. And all of this gathers into one very big problem for his regime, and the elections in September. I know there are no elections in Russia, but this is definitely a stress point where they need to decide what numbers to draw in the results, where people can actually go out on some protests if they see a very big difference. Like, Putin does not have a high level of support right now. It's totally understandable. So this is going to be a very difficult summer and autumn for the Kremlin. Very often when people are looking for the potential ending of Putin's regime, they fear the civil war. But I personally believe that a coup, or a coup organized by the Russian oligarchs, will seem very likely. Because it's an old Russian tradition. They do lack organization, civil society traditions. So ordinary people are more prepared to record videos, keep whining about the situation and not asking questions. And the oligarchs, they have what to lose. They've already lost a lot with sanctions, with the geopolitical isolation of Russia, with an ability to travel and live the life they want. But at least they were promised safety and security and more money inside Russia, because that is a very rich country in natural resources, in everything. The problem is that they prioritize burning these billions on the destruction of the Ukrainian bedrooms. And now more and more oligarchs sense that. We see that they appear on various newspapers, shows. Not all of them are people who are prepared to change something in Russia, because we have to understand this is a part of Putin's circle. They share a lot of his attitudes and visions of the future of Russia. But they perhaps are more rational. They already sense the consequences of this failed blitzkrieg that very quickly destroys Russia from inside. Companies like Lukoil, Gazprom, they were symbols of Russia's abnormal wealth. People made fortunes on them, and now these companies need subsidies and support from the Kremlin because they stopped earning enough. And oligarchs behind them do not feel happy about that. When we see Russian oil refineries burning, of course, this is a serious hit on the war economy, but these are also someone's businesses, and they are burning because Putin did not stop in time when it became obvious that his plan failed. It was obvious in March 2022. And many are looking for the way out. They relocate money. Most of their families, they don't live in Russia. That is another very illustrative moment that we are not talking enough about, that the majority of Putin's friends and his own daughters, they don't live in Russia. They constantly threaten to turn the West into radioactive ashes, but they won't, because lots of their families enjoy life in your cities. And we also see that a lot of oligarchs with criminal background who were Putin's supporters, who knew a lot about him from his St. Petersburg career, they are now arrested, imprisoned, and this what spreads fear among the rest, because for decades they had this immunity. So we see that Putin fears them, and perhaps he has the reasons. He has some knowledge of how they feel about the situation. And I think that even the head of the Russian Sberbank, German Gref, who is a banker, but perhaps also one of those oligarchs because of the high level of corruption in Russia, he, despite the fact that Sberbank is a state-funded bank, said that the greatest dream of all CEOs of the Russian banks is the end of the special military operation. This goes against what the Kremlin wants to hear. But this is their reality, because they destroyed the reserves, lots of ruined businesses. Again, there are businesses like construction, mining, lots of different kinds of export. They are almost non-existent. Retail. I see huge effect of our strikes on Wildberries logistics hubs right now. It might be an exaggeration, but the information was shared on X and elsewhere that this recent strike destroyed more money than Russia's 52 regions have in their budgets yearly. So that's a lot. And this shows that a lot of sacrifices must be made if Putin wants to continue this war, starting from economy and finishing with the general conscription and with the confiscation of money of lots of oligarchs. And the reason may be they will get in prison or something, because Putin needs the reason to get this money out of them. And these are hundreds of billions of dollars, so that's a lot. We're not talking about millions. And they all understand this. And that's why I will not be surprised if at a certain moment of time, after a very quick palace coup, we will have a substitute of Putin. They might be thinking about a potential candidate. Again, I don't think this will be a sensational, different person, a person that can change Russia, because I don't see any strong opposition figures, like real opposition figures in Russia. And I also feel very worried that a lot of the Western leaders, as the Kremlin says, accept how Putin destroyed his opposition, poisoned Navalny, a lot of others disappeared. And actually right now he prevents a lot of people and a lot of parties that are very weak from participating in the elections, because of the level of this negative rating that he has, that even parties with very low support can be on top because people want to vote against Единая Россия, against Putin, against what they experience now. So the weaker he becomes, the sooner his predator oligarchs can substitute him with someone else and regain control over their finances, try and rebuild some industries destroyed by this exhausting war, and maybe stop attacks on oil refineries. Because again, this is not just export, this is not just money, these are also people's businesses that were among the most profitable.